local account. This is a requirement that local authorities produce a local account. In effect, it's like an annual report, and we say it's 2015 because it covers 2014-15 principally, but we have updated it as we are obviously 6 or 7 months into the financial year. So our vision is restated on page 46 of the annual local account, which is resourceful and resilient people in resourceful and resilient communities. We detail in page 47 where we spend our money in adult social care. So the gross budget is just over £51 million, and it shows you where the bulk of our spending goes in terms of support for carers, people with learning disability, mental health, physical disability. So that sums up the sort of, if you like, where the spend is in adult social care. Page 49, these were the 10 priorities that we signed off last year, were endorsed by the scrutiny committee. And then from page 49 onwards, we've listed all of the 10 priorities and to what degree we have successfully implemented them, delivered them, or where there's still some further progress to undertake. Obviously, a lot of work over the last 12 months has been around the delivery of the Care Act. And thank all the work that's certainly Thurrock Coalition and Health Watch and other people had in terms of work around implementing the Care Act. And I think generally that had a sort of quite a successful landing. So the work that was done around advice and information, the work was done around advocacy, the new eligibility criteria, the new responsibilities around safeguarding. I think generally those have gone very well. We're doing a proper evaluation and a bit of a peer review exercise that we're going to do later in the year just to test how well that's gone. Obviously part 2 of the Care Act was postponed. It was confirmed in the Chancellor's statement last week that is still going to be implemented, but not until March or April 2020 now. I think there's some scepticism as to whether that will ever see the light of day and whether it will see the light of day in its current form. But certainly part 2 of the Care Act, as members will know, has been postponed. So I won't go through all of those, but you can see all the different priorities that we've been working on over the last year. The last bit is to talk about the sort of, if you like, our priorities for next year. Some of those are obviously ongoing and continuing the priorities that we've done for this year, but we've listed on page 72 what the sort of priorities are for 2016. A lot of that is around the themes that we've got around sort of delivering choice and control, but also around market development now. I think one of the lessons that we've got coming out of the situation with domiciliary care is that we're going to have to develop a different sort of market. We will need some high care providers, but we need some smaller providers working in communities to provide home care in quite a different way. We're also now rolling out our sort of self-service on the internet, Quick Heart, which went live in April. That's the actual self-service bit of that hasn't gone live yet. We're still sort of making sure that needs a bit more testing, but the aim is in 2016 that people will be able to do a self-assessment online, and that's what our ambition is. So, lastly, the last bit I wanted to point out is around the performance indicators on page 74 and 75. Generally, I think there's more positives than negatives. I think there's still some things that we need to do, particularly around carers receiving self-directed support and carers receiving direct payments, because I don't think our performance is anywhere good enough. But overall, I think there's more areas where there have been improvements and where we are better than the England average than where we're worse than the average. So I think overall, I would say it's a sort of fairly healthy report. But there's some very significant challenges in the next 12 months.
Roger, thank you for the report. Members, any questions? Councillor Key.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report, Roger. More of a statement than a question, really. I just wanted to say that given the 3 reports that we faced for this item tonight, I've got to say that there's obviously been a great amount of work being put in here. There's a lot here to hold to account, which unfortunately, given the circumstances, is going to end up that we don't hold it to account in quite the way that we normally would. And for what it's worth, I think it's been a bit of a shame really that this amount of effort has been put in here, and we've had an hour and a half or an hour and 45 minutes of how NHS and the CCG can play around with new pots of money, and there's so much pressure put on yourselves here, and I just want to say it's a disgrace, and well done to you and to Barbara and to Ian on the work that you've done here, and long may it continue, and I really hope that you can get better of the cuts that are coming this way with regards to this, and that have already come, and I think that you've managed it superbly. The service, whether the word getting better is best to use, it's adapting to the funding challenges that it's facing very, very well, and I've got to give credit to all of you for the work you've done on it, and just repeat how much of a shame I find it to be that about an hour and a half this evening of arguing over new pots of money and new directorships. I think it's an absolute disgrace.
Thank you. Councillor Howden.
Thank you, Chair. On page 69, under the mental health strategy, again, very good. All of it seems to be slightly less robust than some of the other sections in terms of the vision that people have good mental health. I'm not entirely sure if that can be a vision, because that's not always within our gift. But it all seems very positive. I did get an email a few days ago from a resident asking if the council would be signing up to the mental health challenge, and she made the point that apparently almost half of all illnesses under the age of 65 in some way linked to ill mental health. Whether or not that's true, I'm not entirely sure. But it does seem that perhaps that would be a worthwhile work stream. I don't think we've had mental health issues on the work plan for a little while now, so I wonder if that's just something we consider. Although I would echo what Councillor Key said, there is a very clear divide in terms of the quality and breadth of work that's gone into your reports, and unfortunately the kind of deficit of effort and information and clarity that goes into NHS and CCG reports.
Most probably we haven't here, but we certainly at the Health and Wellbeing Board have discussed it a number of times. We signed up to the National Mental Health Crisis Concordat. There's a lot of work we've done around the street triage service with Dept. We've done a lot of work with our community mental health team in terms of the first response and the long-term conditions service. We've also gone out to tender with the CCG for the improving access to psychological therapy service. So I think that there has been a lot of work, but we most probably haven't brought anything specifically back here. But it certainly has been discussed through the Health and Wellbeing Board quite considerably. So maybe we can sort of think offline what's the sort of best. I don't want to just produce a report for the sake of it, but we might want to think about what's the right sort of angle that we can give to some proper scrutiny. So maybe with the chair and the vice chair and yourself, we could think about bringing something back in the new year.
Okay, that's fair enough. Ian.
Just to add to that, you're absolutely right. All your decisions is right. So I think 46% of certainly people with long-term conditions also have comorbid depression and anxiety, and that leads to more or poorer outcomes for themselves and also much more expense to the system. So it's an absolute priority that we have to address. I recognise mental health is a huge issue in Thurrock and a huge priority. We've adopted it as one of our 4 new strategic priorities in our health and wellbeing strategy refresh. So from that will come a programme of work that will will coordinate different partners to work together to address this problem in Thurrock.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Chair. I think I agree with Charlie. That's a very good written report, and I'm very pleased about that. Look at page 70, care strategy. I know that we have written the care strategy, and as you said very early, that there are more and more carers are needed because of some of the services are not up to the mark really. So the carers we're putting more and more demand on the carers. And you put the in Thurrock, carers have always been in touch to have and encouraged to have a carers assessment. I was just wondering whether these are still available and how long does it take for somebody to ask for an assessment, because I have experienced myself that takes quite a long time. So I was just wondering, you see, that whether you can explain that.
Okay, that was one of the changes of the Care Act that came in April this year, which put carers on an equal footing with service users. So previously there was a much higher threshold that you used to have before you could request an assessment, but now if there is a perceived need, you can request an assessment. And what we've done quite a bit of work with our carers, because we outsourced, as you know, the Carer Centre to a consortium that was led by Thurrock Mind, along with three other agencies.
Yeah.
So CARIADS is our frontline carers service, and they do a lot of the, if you like, the first line of assessment, the initial triage, and we're discussing with them about how we might want to take that further, so that not everyone necessarily needs a full social care assessment, but it might well be a bit of signposting, a bit of advice and information, a bit of help with advocacy, how do you get equipment, what respite services are available. And so we're in discussion with carriers now about how we might want to extend their role so that they can do more, if you like, initial assessments on behalf of the council. And then it's only when someone has a full need that we can actually then do a full social care assessment within the local authority. I don't think we've got anywhere near enough assessments done yet, but we're in discussion with carriers about how we can do more.
Okay.
Is that anybody else as well? Oh, Barbara.
Chair, I should just thank the members opposite for their kind words about the effort, and particularly around Roger and his team. And I have to say that it's not just work, it's always done with a heart that's fully into the job in hand, and it no matter what things are thrown at the team, they always stand up and do the utmost and the best possible job that they can, Chair. And it is a really remarkable team to be part of, and I'm very humbled by it sometimes. So thank you very much for your kind words.
Thank you, Barbara, and I'll just endorse everything that both Charlie and James have said. In ever challenging times, I'm sure that there are some authorities elsewhere that will buckle under the pressure, and that hasn't done that. And we've got a lot of good people finding innovative solutions to problems that are being heaped upon seems daily. And I also would like to thank them for the enormous efforts they put forward to making sure that people of Thurrock get the best possible deal.